If Auburn hired Jeff Brohm, boy, the offense could be elite.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. Today, we'll go over our Auburn versus Vanderbilt picks for tomorrow's game, as well as who right now do we think is the most likely candidate to be Auburn's next head coach? That info seems to change every few days or so. We'll give you our updated picks on that. But if the choice is Jeff Brohm, the current head coach of Louisville, I mean, you talk about an offensive identity that we've been looking for. Jeff Brohm, if he is Auburn's next head coach, could answer a lot of those questions. And Darrell, what's really been an offensive drought really since the 2017 season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of those that subscribes to the theory that you need to have an offensive-minded head coach to have a good offense. I think we've seen in the past that Auburn's been able to pull that off if they have the right coordinator and he's left alone. I want to go back and make sure that every time we do one of these that we throw out this disclaimer that just think of this as a hot board like that used to be on the message. I'm not endorsing, you're not endorsing. We're not saying this is going to be the coach or this is who we want to be the coach. We just think that there's a set of names that has gotten the most smoke, the most buzz, that seem to be the ones that are the most realistic. And at some point, you know, it's worth talking about these candidates so that your listeners and viewers know what they're all about. So I always want to make sure I emphasize this. I don't want it to look like I'm lobbying for a particular candidate. Although, again, I want to say I think Auburn's in a good spot. I think that all the names we've mentioned, I feel really good about. Brohm is one that early on I mentioned to you that I really, really liked along with Dillingham. And it's because of the pedigree of what he's done to turning teams around. Both Purdue and Louisville were doormats before he took the programs over. So we already know he's capable of doing that build, right? I like the fact that he's been a Power 4 coach at two different stops. I like the fact that he's coached in the Big Ten. So the narrative that, he's coached in the watered-down ACC or Big 12, the Big Ten outside of the SEC is a significant conference. So he's coached in both the Big Ten and the ACC. He's a little hard-nosed, no nonsense, very detail-oriented. But here's the numbers that I want to throw out at you that I want people to digest. The first couple of years at Purdue, he struggled building his roster. The last 2 years at Purdue, he was 17-9, including a 9-win season. He won the Western Division of the Big Ten during that time. He was 12-6 in the Big Ten from a conference record during that time, his last 2 years. The last 5 years overall, where we would, I think, all agree Auburn's been in the desert. That's where we've been in the wilderness, right? Last 5 years. The last 5 years, Jeff Brohm is 43-18. He's had a 10-win season, probably will have another 10-win season this year. Basically has put himself in the conversation of winning the ACC this year when there's the Miamis and the Clemsons and the Florida States. More than likely, Louisville will be in the conference championship game. He's won big games. He beats ranked opponents. He's also done good things with quarterbacks, that his quarterbacks have been proficient. They've been very, very proficient. He has made them better. And so I think about a guy like that with Auburn's roster, trending upward, building programs, turning programs around, winning at places that typically don't win in conferences that are very good. That's why I think if Auburn was to pull the trigger on Jeff Brohm, that would be a very good hire.
And I go back and forth on how much we should value player retention with this hire, but you got to think on the offensive side of the ball, there'd be a lot of these receivers that would be excited to play in this system. Maybe they could get the type of production they thought they were going to get under the previous system. And anytime we talk about an offensive-minded head coach, you and I had a show about Kenny Dillingham earlier in the week. It does seem to increase the possibility of keeping DJ Durkin. And so if you were able to bring in an offensive mind, similar to how we talked about Kenny Dillingham earlier in the week, if you were able to bring Brohm in to be head coach and over the offense and keep Durkin and let him be over the defense, I mean, that could be a recipe for a fairly quick turnaround. And I don't want to say instant success, but possibly quick success where you don't have to start all the way over like we did when Hugh Freeze was hired. That there's definitely some appeal to that. I don't think anybody would push back against that.
Well, we're in a day and age now where you don't have to wait 3 or 4 years. If you have a good roster, Auburn has a good roster. There shouldn't be.
We don't know what Auburn's roster. Like we don't know that. We think that we're going to be able to keep a lot of these guys, but I do think a lot of people are assuming that we're going to be fine when it comes to roster retention. And I would lean on that side as well, that I think we're going to be okay, but we don't know. Like we don't know the current state of the roster in the sense of what's going to happen when the portal opens.
My point is, I don't think Auburn fans should have to be patient and wait 2 or 3 years to have success. I think those days are gone. And I think that's the problem. If you feel like you can get a coach that can come in and whatever the roster looks like, whether it's what we've retained or what goes out and Auburn uses its resources and money to go bring other dudes back in, the roster should be good enough to win right away. Now, look, in pre-NIL, Auburn has had this really weird dynamic that after a really suck year, they've been able to turn it around quickly and do well. 92 to 93, 2008 to 2009, 2012 to 2013. That dynamic hasn't been there the last 5 years. That's more the frustration that Auburn fans have, because they've kind of been spoiled a little bit to have a year that's bad. It turns quickly. That hasn't happened.
Yeah, and I do think we probably have this lens because of what we thought Freeze was trying to do, or I guess he was trying to do it, but the way he went about it, we assumed that the coaching was fine during this rebuild and when they were adding all this portal stuff, because he said, hey, wait, we got a young roster, we got to get it better. When in hindsight, it was just, no, the coaching stunk the entire time. And so that is to your credit, where if you give a Brohm or a Dillingham or a Sumrall or whoever you might think that could be for Auburn, if you give them the roster that Freeze had, especially this year, but I would even say last year's roster, I think it'd be fine. So, yeah, I'm in agreement.
And I'll say this too: both Harsin and Hugh had the opportunity and were sitting in the catbird seat to have a really successful first year and collapse down the stretch. Harsin was 6-2 and couldn't beat South Carolina, had Alabama beat and couldn't hold the lead. That would have been 8 wins. Freeze was sitting at 6-4 with New Mexico State and 4th and 31 against Alabama, could have had 8 wins. Either one of those teams wins 8 and beats Bama and goes on to win their bowl game, you have to consider it a good year. So they were in position, but couldn't close the deal. And then it got worse. It got worse for Harsin, and it got worse for Freeze. Therein lies the dynamic of the frustrated Auburn fan that had hope, and instead of it getting better, got worse. Brohm, Dillingham, any of these candidates we've mentioned, I don't think they have to take the same amount of time typically or traditionally to build. I think you could win right away. And I think the expectation should be to win right away.
Who's the most likely candidate if we had to guess right now? We take a stab at that next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. It's almost a weekend, time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streak, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I'll go with Elijah Melendez. I mean, that was really the only bright spot as far as the form of production goes this past week. Based on your reaction, you were probably thinking the same guy.
Yeah, I'll go with Xavier Atkins again. I mean, I'd have to stay on the defensive side of the ball because other than
you can't give it any offensive players.
Other than McPherson making a field goal, there really wasn't anything. So I'll give it to Atkins, but I love your Melendez choice because that's who mine was going to be. I'm glad I can think quick on my feet, change it up.
Yeah,
Right?
you're so nimble. Just like Xavier Atkins and Elijah Melendez delivered for Auburn, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season long, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day with DoorDash. Terms apply, a promo period through November 18th. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. Supply House is the best place to buy parts, whatever you need when it comes to HVAC, plumbing, electrical. They've got over 280,000 total parts, all from the most trusted brands. Darrell, you guys use Supply House when you run your business. When you have a crew like you guys do, you need the parts in a quick manner, in an affordable manner, and you want to trust that it's going to get there, and Supply House does all of those things.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so convenient. If you have people on site that are mechanically oriented that can put this stuff and install it for you, Supply House is a lifesaver because it comes and you just install it.
Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. If I had to guess right now, I would say that Jon Sumrall is the most likely candidate as we record this on a Thursday afternoon for a show that is going up on November 7th. I would say Jon Sumrall is the most likely candidate to be Auburn's next head coach. We heard his name from the jump. We heard his name even before Hugh Freeze was let go. And it doesn't seem like it's wavered a whole lot. You know, we've heard kind of different versions and sets of top twos or top threes from folks that we trust within the program and close to the situations and in agents' offices. And that second and third name changes, but Sumrall's always in that top list, Darrell, based on what I've heard. I think that's the safe hire. I think it's the most likely hire. Right now is I would say it's Jon Sumrall.
I agree. It's the most chatter. It's the most smoke. It makes the most sense. It's the one you hear over and over.
Now, sometimes.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Probably tells me that that's not who it's going to be based upon that. Because when does the media and the people that throw out these names and feel like it's the slam dunk candidate, it's rarely that person. It happens. It happened with Tuberville for Auburn. Yeah. That was, and it happened, I think, for Gus Malzahn, if people wanted to see the writing on the wall. But rarely, there's always a candidate that comes out of left field and you go, wow. And that's because the athletic director's done a good job keeping that under close to the vest. So although all the smoke and all the chatter and all the signs point to Sumrall, I would caution people to say that's mostly the time when it doesn't happen that way, because it's rare. It's rare that the media and us being part of that gets it right. Sometimes things are thrown out by agents. Sometimes things are thrown out and leaked by athletic directors to throw you a curveball. So, yes, that is what the betting odds are and all the smoke and all the chatter. But for me, that doesn't necessarily make it the most likely, because I think a lot of times they throw you off with that. So where after that does Auburn go? I mean, look, we're not having this conversation at all, in my opinion, if Durkin wins out.
Sure.
If Durkin wins out, I think he gets the job. I'm not saying you still don't.
If he goes 2-1, you might get it. If he wins on Saturday, he might get it.
I don't know. That's I'm just unsure about that. I feel ambivalent towards that. Don't know one way or the other. Okay. It depends, I guess, on how they play against Alabama and how they come out and play. But you're right. I mean, that could be the case. I know that Auburn will still interview candidates. They're still in the process of reaching out to agents, just because if Durkin goes 3-0 and you still want to have, that opportunity if he doesn't. So there's a lot of factors here, but I just think that it's
sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
And we'll agree, like the odds of him going 3-0 are pretty low.
Correct. But he makes the decision for you if he does.
which would be great.
I think if Auburn was to go 3-0 and be two teams ranked, one on the road, win the Iron Bowl against your rival, and finish the season at that point, you would be 7-5, right?
Right.
And then go into a bowl game. If you look good in the bowl, you can't not make that. You have to, because that's an audition, and he passed it with flying colors.
Assuming he wants it.
Correct.
Assuming he wants it. If he wants to stay on as defensive coordinator or whatever and just kind of be on the staff, then that's fine too. But you'd have to honor and heavily consider whatever he wants to happen. As far as other names that have kind of floated around that, like, I don't know if we're given enough chatter or not, but I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen more James Franklin chatter. Darrell, if I'm being 100% honest with you, I'm not saying he should or shouldn't be Auburn's next head coach. I think if you want to go the highest floor option, I think you could argue that he has the highest floor of all the candidates that have been discussed. But I'm talking strictly of, like, I'm surprised the chatter for him hasn't been higher.
I think there were some things that kind of disqualified him from the get-go. I think Auburn doesn't want to get into a situation. They want to compete for championships. I'm not saying that James Franklin can't do that. I'm just saying that he hasn't. I'm surprised that Dabo Swinney's name's not more prevalent. I mean, I see the writing on the wall with him that I think he probably is looking to be somewhere else. And 2 or 3 years ago, Auburn would have, crawled over broken glass, or a lot of schools would have. I think the Dabo factor and why he's not being mentioned is Auburn's got a war chest with NIL. They rely heavily on the portal. If Dabo's not willing to play that game, then he's not going to be strongly considered. I know you guys mentioned Jimbo Fisher. I just don't see that happening. That's a situation where it's a retread, and he's currently not coaching. And I think it's been very well documented that Cohen wants someone that's currently a head coach.
The Jimbo stuff, it sounds like that's coming from Durkin really liking Jimbo. Are you hearing the same thing?
I'm hearing conflicting reports on that. I don't necessarily think that's true. I've also heard reports where it was a difficult working relationship. I've heard both. I don't know which one to hang my hat on because I wasn't on A&M staff, but I have really, really, really good sources that I trust that have been right in the past that said that working relationship was a little awkward and strained.
Then why are we why is that name even popping up then?
I think agents throw names out. I think that, obviously there's an
You think it's all gamesmanship?
It is. And I think Auburn, he's coached at Auburn before. He's done really, really well in the portal and with recruiting, but I don't think that's if Auburn is serious, to me, that's an unserious hire. And if you're serious about where you want to be and tired of where you've been the last 5 years, if you hire someone like Jimbo Fisher, it reeks of being unserious. And the same thing with, I hate to say this because I don't want to say, when Charles Kelly's name keeps popping up, if you can go get a power four head coach or a group of 5 head coach, I love Charles Kelly. I know that Auburn loves Charles Kelly when he was here. I just think that's another situation where you're settling for Jacksonville State's coach. I don't think that would be. And I like Charles Kelly a lot as the role that he had when he was at Auburn. I don't know how good of a coach he is. He's a great recruiter. It sounds like he's the greatest human being. Like, I've heard nothing but great things about the guy, but I don't know if I want him being a head coach here. Let me throw another name out that a lot of people are climbing into my DMs and blowing up my X account with the Golish guy at South Florida. South Florida, yeah. I get it. He's coached in the SEC. He was at Tennessee as an offensive coordinator. I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit more on his resume. People will say, well, what about Sumrall? Coaches. Well, Sumrall's done it at 2 places. He's done it at Troy and he's done it at Tulane. Yeah. Yeah. Golish is not. I would rather have Sumrall than Golish. Mm-hmm. The more I think about Sumrall, the more I'm like, I don't know if he's the guy that we can win championships with. And I love Brent Key, but I'm hearing that there's no way he's leaving Georgia Tech. It's a different situation than the Dillingham situation because Brent Key, to my knowledge, has never coached at Auburn, where Dillingham did. There's some relationships there. So, but I like him a lot. I think he's a really good coach, but I don't think
Yeah, I'm with you.
He's got more Tuscaloosa ties than he does Auburn ties.
Yeah. So
you want to rank them? I'm going to rank them for you. How about that?
As far as likelihood, as far as who you want.
Who I want.
Okay.
I would go Brohm first.
Okay.
Dillingham second.
Okay.
Sumrall third. Durkin fourth. That's my final four.
You have Sumrall over Durkin?
I do, only because the 2 stops as a head coach and some of the things that I know from being affiliated with Troy at one point.
I gotcha. I would go, I mean, if all the realistic ones, I would go Dillingham 1. I don't think he's coming here now after, hearing stuff, but we'll see. I would go Dillingham 1. I would go Franklin 2. I would go Durkin 3. And then Sumrall and Brohm are right there, 4 or 5.
Yeah. You do not. Well, anyway, the Franklin thing's interesting to me.
Yeah. And I think we should do a full show on this next week, Darrell, is like the conversation about, do you go for floor or do you go for ceiling? I think that's an interesting conversation. And I would love actually Auburn fans' thoughts on this. Like, would you be okay swinging for the up and comer, unproven guy that you could win a championship with, or a guy that could get you to the college football playoff
year one?
Yeah. Or quickly, but maybe not win it all. Where are you with that? I think that's an interesting discussion.
You have to take into consideration fit and how he would be with boosters, fan base, administration, if there is a good fit there, or would he potentially rub a lot of those people the wrong way?
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about that, unless we'll just move on.
Yeah, no, fit does matter for sure. And I think those are points for Brohm in that situation, actually. So Auburn takes on Vandy. What do they need to do to upset the Commodores? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall, alumnihall.com, or of course, they've got 3 physical locations at Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. It's where you can go to shop for any Auburn fan in your life. Basketball season's here. Go ahead and get your Auburn basketball gear over at Alumni Hall, or go ahead and get some early Christmas shopping done. Darrell Dapprich.
The good thing about Alumni Hall, you never have to worry about who the brands are that they're carrying. Sure. Right? There's no off brands. There's no cheap brand. They carry the best. I mean, the best.
Legit real stuff.
Real stuff. And that's a big plus.
Yep, for sure. So alumnihall.com, or once again, 3 great physical locations at Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. The Auburn Tigers take on the Vanderbilt Commodores tomorrow. Just shy of a touchdown favorite are the Vanderbilt Commodores. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think both defenses are going to consistently stop the opposing offense. And we'll see who makes a play. And when it comes down to making a play, do you trust Ashton Daniels or Diego Pavia more? Diego Pavia certainly has a track record of it.
I agree. I think unless Auburn really gets in his stuff and causes him to turn it over or bangs on him and sacks him, and then Auburn is able to defensively get a touchdown, get a score, set up good field position. Vanderbilt's defense is a little susceptible. I mean, they gave up a lot of points against Texas. We'll see if Auburn can run the ball. But if Auburn could play the field position game and the time of possession game, do well on special teams, get a big turnover, whether it sets up a score or has a score for itself, that's what's going to have to happen to have a chance. That being said, I don't think so. And I'm going to go first with my score just in case you have my score. So you have to change if it's the same. I'm going to go
17-13.
What?
17-13.
All right, I'm going to go with 23-17 Vanderbilt.
You're a little higher scoring. Okay.
Yeah.
23-17 Vandy?
Correct.
Okay. I don't think it's a bad score. That has was that 41? So the over-under is 45.5. So still the under, which makes me think why is it that high? I don't think it's a bad score at all, Darrell. I wonder. I don't want to like bait Diego Pavia truthers, but I have a hard time seeing him score that much.
He is one of those guys that will beat you ugly. You know what I'm saying? He just finds a way to win. They could be horrible all day on offense and only have 13 points. Then all of a sudden he has that drive, that signature drive.
You're right.
That's why Auburn has to pound on him. Just have some pride. Think about what he did.
You got to make this personal. You have
to make it personal when he, suplexed somebody on the sidelines. He runs that mouth. He's a very confident guy. I think you have to physically make him put a physical toll on him. Nothing cheap, nothing dirty. But when he does leave the pocket and run, by God, you better blast him. If you get a shot at him in the pocket, you have to be physical with him and make him start to think about releasing the ball sooner. Or maybe I don't want to run out of the pocket because someone's going to make me pay the price. That has to happen tomorrow.
It does. It does. Later today, dropping a crossover with Corey Burton. He's host of Locked On Vandy. We kind of jump into this game as well, kind of get more some of the Vanderbilt perspective. That'll drop later today. Darrell, Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Before they do that, I do want to mention one thing for anything that's tied in from a transitional standpoint with the new coach. How sweet is it that whatever new coach is coming on board gets to take the Tigers to South Bend finally? That the Notre Dame, Auburn, home and home, which I have been screaming for. And I'll be honest, when Sankey made that announcement that you have to play another Power 4 non-conference on top of a 9-game schedule, I hit my knees, went back to my Catholic heritage, did the sign of the cross, and hoped that it was Notre Dame. And it is. And I'm very excited about it.
It's going to be awesome. There'll be a lot of Auburn fans in South Bend that Saturday for sure.
Yep. So there you go.
Sure.
Check me out on DAP6410 on X. Obviously, hopefully you watched the live basketball show last night with me and Lindsay.
Yes.
And then we'll be doing our reaction show from Nashville that drops Sunday morning.
Yep, normal programming. So I'll go live by myself right after the game, and then Darrell and I will have a show that drops Sunday morning for sure. So please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.